Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Metro Inner Development Assessment Panel for Tuesday, the 22nd of July. My name is Karen Hyde. I'm your presiding member today. I declare the meeting open at 9:31 a.m. In doing so, I acknowledge we are hosting this meeting on the traditional land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation and acknowledge the Aboriginal people as the traditional custodians of Western Australia, and pay respects to elders past and present and the ongoing connection between people, land, waters and community. The meeting will be run in accordance with the MIDAP Standing Orders 2024 under the Planning and Development Assessment Panels Regulations 2011. The meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the DAP website in accordance with Regulation 42A of those regulations. Members are reminded to announce their name and title prior to speaking. Panel members may refer to technical devices throughout the meeting to assist them in considering the information before them. I'll introduce the panel members. To my left, Francesca Lafante, Deputy Presiding Member. Further to my left, Clayton Hyam, Specialist Member. And for the first item, we have Mayor Patrick Hall and Councillor Ben Kunzi, local government DAP members from the City of Canning, joining us on Zoom. And for the second item, we have Councillor Rebecca Coghlan and Councillor Blaine Breckenbridge, local government DAP members from the City of Nedlands. Item 2, apologies, we have none. No members on leave of absence at item 3. Item 4, noting of minutes. Minutes of previous meetings are available on the DAP website. We will now move to part B for the City of Canning. We also have available for questions later, Austin Donaghy, Shaquille McFall, Johnny Lau and Adam Stilitano. And applicants and submitters, we have submissions from Joseph Bennett. We also have Ross Underwood and John Warren available for questions. So first, could I please, for this part of the meeting, confirm that all panel members have duly considered all of the documentation contained within part B of the agenda and related information with a show of hands, please. Thank you. Due considerations to be given by all. I'll then move to disclosures of interest. I've not received any today. Do any panel members have any disclosures they wish to raise? Could I ask, please, the local government DAP members, was this matter for Canning considered at council?
Mayor Hall, no, it wasn't.
Thank you for that, Mayor Hall. Therefore, we have no disclosures of interest today for this item. We will move ahead then to the Form 1 DAP application and the presentation associated with it. Lot 6, Cudell Road, Welshpool, industrial development comprising of warehouse, office, trade display and industry and associated signage. Now we have one presentation today from Joe Bennett. I've allowed 3 minutes for that presentation. There's been no extension granted. Therefore, I would ask you please to focus on the key points that you wish to raise today. I'll let you know when you're close to time. So if you could start when you're ready.
Thank you, Presiding Member, and good morning to panel members and local government officers. I'm Joe Bennett from Planning Solutions, and we are the applicant speaking in support of the pump manufacturing, sales and storage development at 12 to 14 Cudell Road in Welshpool. We are pleased that the development is recommended for approval and would like to thank the City of Canning officers for their positive recommendation and work throughout the application. The development has been suitably designed within the industrial context of the locality and addresses both Cudell and Orang roads with a strong, well-considered interface. The development is consistent with the objectives of the general industrial zone and the applicable development requirements of the local planning framework. The development is also supported by the necessary traffic technical reporting, which has been reviewed by the City and is confirmed to sufficiently address the operations and functionality of vehicle access and parking. We have reviewed the proposed conditions and find them to be generally acceptable. However, we request the removal of condition 10 relating to the requirement for a geotechnical report. Geotechnical investigations are more appropriately addressed at the building permit stage as required by the BCA. Requiring a geotechnical report prior to lodgement of a building permit is an unnecessary overreach of requirements that are already addressed through the building permit stage. To conclude, we consider that the pump manufacturing, sales and storage development is well placed within the general industrial context and is a quality utilisation of a site which has remained vacant for over 20 years. I request that the panel support the proposed development today in line with the removal from condition 10. Thank you for your time. My colleague Ross Underwood and Vice John Ward and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Joe. For questions, I refer to our local government members on screen first. Mayor Hall, did you have any questions of the applicant?
Through you, Chair, no. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kunze, did you have any questions of the applicant?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Panel members in the room, questions of the applicant? None to me. Okay. I don't have either. I do have some questions for the officers though, so thank you for your presentation. We will then now invite questions of the officers. Mayor Hall, did you have any questions of the officers? Sorry, we didn't hear you if you were speaking. I'm not sure. Are you just referring to your notes?
Thank you, Chair. Got me now? Thank you. I have got some questions, most of those restricted to the conditions and the advice notes. Did you want me to ask those now or wait for a little
yes,
minute?
Yes, if there are questions that the officers can assist us with, I think now is a good time to talk about those conditions that you have questions regarding.
Look, thank you, Chair, and fellow panel members. Just in relation to the conditioning in relation to landscaping, something I've raised before. Landscaping is covered by 14 and 15, paragraphs 14 and 15. In 4 and 6 in relation to parking, we talk about parking and embayments must be maintained for the duration of the development. In 6, we talk about bicycle bays being maintained for the duration of the development and to the satisfaction of the city. However, when we get to landscaping, it simply says to be thereafter maintained without any real conditioning around the standard or whether the landscaping plan should be maintained as approved. I'm not sure what maintained actually means. Does it mean that they simply required to trim the hedges or are they required to replace significant plantings once they expire? So I wanted some just some clarity around that. I would have preferred as a standard to see for landscaping for the duration of the development to the satisfaction of the city or something along those words, just so it's consistent with the conditioning around other matters. And I would like to ask the officers for their advice on that.
Thank you. Mr. Donaghy, you or colleagues, could you respond, please?
Through you, presiding member, essentially the condition in terms of maintained thereafter has the same meaning as to the satisfaction of the city. So the city would consider those two conditions to be the same, that the landscaping would need to be maintained in accordance with the approved landscaping plan itself. But the city's happy for that condition to be amended if the mayor wishes to make an amendment to add to the satisfaction of the city. But the intent of the condition will still remain the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Hall, did you have some other questions of the officers?
I did, and I'm satisfied with that, Chair. I just would like to see consistent language throughout the conditioning. At 5, in advice note 5, it talks about approved by the manager of waste services or an environmental health officer in the last line. I'd prefer that to be clear and to say City of Canning manager of waste services or a City of Canning environmental health officer, just for the sake of clarity, notwithstanding that others will read this down the line. I also wanted to just raise with the officers in relation to advice note 18, which talks about the conditioning around Perth Airport. And I see that one of the conditions relates to, one of the suggestions there relates to building insulation. And I wondered, given that future tenants who may over time won't have the ability to look back and see this report that we're all reading today, I'm wondering why we don't, as a standard, given the number of airport disruptive events that occur daily there, why we don't actually suggest double glazing as a standard, as a work and health and safety recommendation for workers in those offices.
Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Donaghy.
Through you, presiding member, in relation to the advice notes to Perth Airport, those standard advice notes that have been provided to the city by the airport itself. In terms of the requirement for double glazing, that's covered under SPP 5.4, and it's up to the applicants to provide a sufficient sound package in accordance with that state planning policy. So there's numerous ways which can reduce the decibel levels internally through different noise packages. So it's up to the applicant to provide those solutions to whatever noise package it deems necessary. So the city wouldn't specifically condition double glazing, but we would require compliance with SPP 5.4. Thank you.
Any further questions, Mehul?
Only just to clarify that position of the city, I just wanted to know, just so I'm absolutely clear on it, does the city have an ability from a health and safety point of view for workspace like offices to condition double glazing in a development like this? Just a yes or no?
Through you, presiding member, we would take advice from an appropriate acoustic report that would recommend noise attenuation measures, which obviously would then require to be in line with SPP 5.4. So we would take that expert opinion through the acoustic report to be able then to condition it appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Kunze, did you have questions of the city officers?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Chair. Through you. The Mayor commented on clauses 14 and 15. With respect to the timing differences in each, clause 14 with respect to the landscaping, ask for it to be established within 90 days of the subject development. However, clause 15 talks to the planting of the one tree being during the next planting season. I'm just wondering, given that clause 14 involves planting 13 trees, which the 90 days might occur in the middle of summer, why that's actually within 90 days of the development, whereas the next one is within the next planting season. Should it not align with the planting season to ensure that the verge landscaping has the best optimal time to thrive?
Thank you. Mr. Donaghy?
Through you, presiding member, with regards to condition 14, that's internal to the site, which would be likely reticked. So they have the availability of water throughout the year. The city proposes a 90-day establishment period after development first becomes occupied or commenced, just to give them time to put in the landscaping and ensure that it can be reticked appropriately so it will survive. In relation to the street tree, obviously not all verges are reticked, so it is city established policy to plant those trees in winter time and to ensure that that tree has the best survival rate rather than planting it into the height of the summer. So there is two different requirements in terms of landscaping internally, which can be better managed and better watered through retick, and obviously that obviously may not have the ability to be reticked. That's why there's different time frame periods within the two conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. And following on from that, why are they expected to install one verge tree? I didn't quite understand why that's been put on towards the applicant.
Mr. Donaghy?
Presiding member, that's just a standard requirement of our tree policy. Where there is no street tree within the verge, then the city will condition one street tree to be planted.
And just with respect to that, so clause 15 specifies that the applicant shall pay the planting of one street tree and pay the city before commencement of any work, and that the city will do it. But advice note 7 speaks to the fact that the owner is advised that the proposed street tree planting is not approved as part of the application, and then goes on to tell them how they could contact the city's urban team by phone to put a tree planting request. If condition 15 is for them to pay the city, why are they then required to then contact the city to facilitate their own planting? I felt as though those conflicted with one another.
Thank you. Mr. Donaghy?
Through you, Presiding Member, in relation to the applicant being required to contact the city, there would be negotiation between the city and the applicant as to the best location where to place the tree and at what time to place the tree itself. So the city's Parks Department does liaise with landowners regarding the placement of trees and the timing, and so that's why they have recommended that advice note, so they can liaise with the landowner in order to discuss and decide the most appropriate time when to plant and where to locate the tree specific to the verge. Thank you.
Any further questions, Councillor Kunze?
Yeah, just lastly, just with respect to the number of clauses, reading them, there's a few that, like clause 5, that just outlines what's covered in legislation, and then clause 20 and 21. I mean, clause 20 would be covered in the stormwater management plan, and clause 21 is covered in Advice Note 12. I just wondered whether there was a bit of duplication or matters that are referred to in the advice notes, whether there needed to be that many clauses.
Mr. Donaghy?
Through you, Presiding Member, so the city obviously is required to refer to external agencies, in this instance to Main Roads and to Perth Airport. Those conditions have been recommended by those external agencies, and the city isn't able to amend them or to amalgamate them into one specific condition, for example.
Right.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you. Panel members in the room. Member Hyatt?
Thank you. Just in relation to the last response, is it correct that those referrals and the response from agencies like Perth Airport are only advice and not mandatory conditions?
You have to, because if we
Through you, Presiding Member, the external agencies such as Main Roads and Perth Airport have recommended conditions of approval themselves. If the city was to go against those recommended conditions, then I think we would need to then request the DPLH to provide advice that we're going against external agency recommendations.
Just going back to condition 15 for the one street tree, I couldn't find in the RAR where you had justified that.
Under our tree planting policy, which has been listed in the RAR itself, under the applicable legislation, under the local planning policy LPO2 tree planting and development. So it met the requirements of that policy. So we didn't feel that there was merit then to include a paragraph as such in the report.
Okay.
Guys, can I speak? Can I speak? I'm John Warren, the owner. I'm the guy applying. In our offer to you, we've got 14 trees already going to be planted in our offer, in our application. Surely that's enough. We shouldn't have to keep planting trees around the Canning Shire as well. We've done our bit for landscaping, and we will maintain it as a very nice garden.
Sorry, Mr. Warren. Thank you, thank you for identifying your commitment. At the moment, we're just raising questions of the officers.
Right.
I'll take that on board, and we may well come back to you in a minute.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. In relation to condition 14, the usual practice is for landscaping to be provided prior to occupation. Why is that not the case here?
Through you, Presiding Member, it just provides the opportunity for the applicant to be given more time to put in the landscaping itself. Provides more flexibility for the landowner.
In condition 20 seems to be a duplication of condition 12.
Through you, presiding member, condition number 12 relates to stormwater on site itself. Condition number 20 is a specific condition recommended from main roads, so it doesn't overflow onto our own road, which is their under their responsibility. So again, we weren't able to alter that recommended condition as proposed by main roads.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that conditions 21 and 23 are really advice notes? I know you've received these recommendations from the agency, but they read as advice notes.
Through you, presiding member, as I said earlier, they were provided as recommended conditions of approval, so we've put them on. If the DAP panel wish to move them to advice notes, then the city would be supportive of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Lafante, any questions?
Yes, to officers, could you provide some commentary in relation to the applicant's request for deletion of condition 10? Sorry.
Through you, presiding member, the city doesn't support the removal of condition 10 as the need for a geotech report has been highlighted by the applicant's stormwater management plan in attachment 7 as stated on page 101 of the RAR. The city considers that conditions 10 and 11 are interlinked and need to be considered at detailed design stage to be able to provide sufficient stormwater management on site to the satisfaction of the city. This information required in both condition 10 and condition 11 can be provided to the city at submission of the building permit stage or earlier in order to satisfy and clear those conditions. The city considers conditions are required and geotech reports and stormwater management conditions are consistently imposed by the DAP and the city for industrial and other commercial developments. One such example is a DAP approval on the 15th of May 2025 by the Metro Outer DAP in the industry zone for a self-storage facility at 106 Barragan Street in Bibra Lake. In this instance, the same applicant was supportive of the same conditions for the need for a geotech report and stormwater management. Thank you.
Any questions?
I have a question to the applicant.
Yes, we might just refer to the applicant, Member Lafante.
My question to the applicant is in your presentation and particularly in your submission, you've talked to your reasoning for it as being, I think, beyond consideration, beyond remit at this part. Have you got any comments to make in relation to what the officers have just said, which is directly aligned to the information provided by as part of the application and the need for a geotech attached to that documentation?
Yeah, thank you for your question, member. Look, we understand the city's position on requiring this the geotechnical report to be done prior to the building permit. We note that the stormwater management plan does recommend that is generally done as part of the building permit process and not as part of a planning commission.
All right, thank you. And just to pick up on points raised earlier, the key condition that you have issue with is number 10. You haven't raised issues regarding conditions related to landscaping. Your client just raised the fact that there were 14 trees provided. Seem to be questioning the verge planting, but I gather from your point of view, that's already been agreed and you're comfortable with that and it's consistent with plans.
Yes, yeah, it's consistent with the planning framework. It's what we're required to provide and discuss that with the client previously.
Okay, thank you.
May I add, there was a comment by Mr. Donaghy about the policy requiring a street tree where there is none in the locality, but there is quite a wide verge at the corner here with several trees in it. So if that's the case, I'd question whether a street tree is required in addition to the several that are there.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Donaghy, hopefully you heard that. Did you wish to comment further on the requirement for verge planting?
And with sufficient space there, in accordance with the city's LPO2, we can recommend an additional street tree along the Qdale Road frontage.
All right, thank you. Any further questions of the officers or the applicant at this point? If not, we will proceed with the item, and we have a responsible authority report recommendation to approve the application subject to a number of conditions and advice notes. So in the first instance, please, I'm seeking a mover for that as the primary motion. Mayor Hall moves. Is there a seconder, please, for that? Councillor Kunzi seconds. Thank you. We therefore have a motion on the table. Mayor Hall, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Chair. I speak in support of the recommendation. I support the development. The City of Canning welcomes investment in the city, and I thank Mr. Warren and the owners for considering the site and for the development, which I believe is going to provide a really positive contribution to the community. It's suitable and complementary to the intended land use in that area. There's a renaissance in Welshpool at the moment and the Qdale area, but particularly Welshpool. I think the built form, the orientation, I'm happy with the landscaping. I am in support of the motion. Can I just take the opportunity whilst I'm speaking to the matter just to address Mr. Warren's concern that he raised earlier? The questioning of myself and Councillor Kunz in relation to the landscaping, I can only speak for myself. We're a pragmatic council. Mr. Warren, I raised the issue because I am really determined to cut red tape, and I don't see the sense in this approval of the landscaping plan being a condition and then forcing owners like you to go outside the process, then to reapply again through the bureaucracy of the City of Canning, to reapply again for permission to plant a tree that's already been conditioned in this planning development. So that was the position that I was coming from. I was trying to do a bit of a favour. I'm going to follow that up privately after this meeting. So that was the only intent of that line of questioning. Thank you, Chair. I am in support of the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. You did foreshadow earlier potentially some amendments. Did you wish to pursue those now while you have the opportunity to speak?
I'm happy to do so, Chair. I thought that Mr. Donaghy, and I must apologise because the quality of the audio from that room he's in is diabolical, at least for me. I found them coming in and out and found it a little bit hard to keep up with it. I'd like to see the condition 14 under landscaping to be amended, where it says and therefore maintain, that it should say and maintained for the duration of the development to the satisfaction of the city.
Okay, I'll just make a note of those words. So that's condition 14 amendment, and thereafter maintain the duration of the development to the satisfaction of the city.
Or it could say therefore thereafter maintained for the duration of the development to the satisfaction of the city. So just an addition there, Chair, that would just bring it into line.
Okay, so we'll take that as we'll take that as amendment 1, moved by Mayor Hall. Is there a seconder, please, for that? Councillor Kunzi, second. Did you wish to speak to it, Mayor Hall?
No, I don't feel it necessary to, other than the fact is to say that it would bring it in line and consistent with the language of other similar conditions that guide the development. And I think I will speak to it just briefly. Over time, we've seen many instances of fabulous landscaping plans that come to the city, and over a period of time, and sometimes more than a decade, the landscaping falls to rack and ruin. Street trees die and are not replaced. Gardens and reticulation are in a sad state of disrepair, and we have sites here we're trying to mitigate at the moment that have become barren over long periods of time because we have not had the opportunity or the ability to go back and actually enforce conditions that were a little bit flip-floppy at the time. I think that we should just provide some guidance for future for the council and also for the city and also for the developers that they have a responsibility to maintain the landscaping to that standard approved today for the duration of the development. And that is a benefit not only to the occupiers of the premises, but also to the community. And I think that's that seems to be a pretty standard argument for these things. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kunzi is seconder. Did you wish to speak to it?
Yeah, I support the amendment. It brings the language in line with the other clauses, and so yeah, I think it makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Other speakers on Amendment 1?
Thank
Member
you.
Hyam.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I too support it, but I would foreshadow a further amendment, which is to take out to be established within 90 days and prior to occupation. And my reasoning there is that that's a fairly normal approach, and I think it's more appropriate to get everything done prior to occupation than the certificate of completion can be dealt with, and all the conditions that can be dealt with at that stage are signed off.
Mayor Hall as mover and Councillor Kunzi as seconder. Did you wish to take that wording on board as part of Amendment 1?
Through you, Chair, I've got no issue with the argument put by the member. Only that depending on the completion date, we do see significant. I'm talking about more than 50% of plantings will die depending on when it is planted. So if this development was finished in January, they would be planting small shrubs in the heat of summer. And the reality is that a lot of those would actually not make it. Giving them 90 days would mean, depending on when it is, gives them some wiggle room to wait for slightly cooler weather. Perhaps that's the reason why it's in there. That would be my only argument against it, but I'm a little bit ambivalent either way, so I'm not really fussed.
Okay, Councillor Kunzi, did you have any issue with adopting those words?
No, I don't. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so shall we take it therefore that we are deleting the words 90 days and adding the words prior to occupation in addition to the words that Mayor Hall has put forward as Amendment 1? Did you have any further statements, Member Hyam?
We're only talking about the amendment, aren't we?
Only amendment.
No further. Thank you.
Member Lafanti, did you wish to speak to this amendment?
No.
No. Okay. Let's put this amendment to the vote then. Those in favour of Amendment 1? And that's a unanimous decision. Thank you. We're still with you, Mayor Hall. Did you have further amendments that you wish to make?
The only matter I did raise was in advice note 5. I'm not certain that it really needs amending. Was just for the point of clarity to have the word City of Canning before the word manager, just to clarify who we're talking about there in that item there. And I do take the point from Mr. Donaghy in relation to 8, and I'm not sure double glazing needs to be in there, but I just wish it had been.
Okay, so we have the words of the City of Canning added to advice note 5, moved by Mayor Hall as Amendment 2. Do we have a seconder, please, for that? No seconder, Mayor Hall. Oh, Member Hyam is happy to second. Did you wish to say anything further, Mayor Hall?
No, I don't. Thank you, Chair.
Member Hyam, did you wish to say anything?
No, thank you.
Okay. Any other speakers on Amendment 2? Let's put that to the vote. Those in favour? That's 4. Those against? Ms Lafanti, motion is carried 4-1. Mayor Hall, did you have any further amendments?
No, nothing further from me. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kunzi is seconded to the primary motion. Did you wish to speak to it?
Just to echo the Mayor's words, welcome the development, support what's put forward. Thanks staff for clarifying some of the questions I'd raised, and no, I support what's been proposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other speakers for the primary motion? Member Hyam.
Thank you. Look, I fully support the proposal. It satisfies the objectives and intent of the zone and the scheme provisions. So from that point of view, it's very supportable. The trade display is the discretionary use, but the building's well designed and fits within the local context. However, there are a number of conditions that sort of concern me that I'd like to address. One is I'm going to condition 12 first of all. The last sentence I don't think needs to be there because it's referring to legislation.
You want to delete?
Yes, so to delete that sentence. Yeah.
Let's find it. You want to do these one at a time?
Yes, all right.
Amendment 3, moved by Member Hyam to condition 12 is to delete the last sentence. Have a seconder for that, please? Member Lafanti, seconds. Would you like to speak to it, Member Hyam?
Well, simply that is not part of planning legislation and it doesn't belong in as a planning condition. That probably could go in the advice note, but I don't think that's necessary either.
Thank you. Member Lafanti is seconded. Did you wish to speak to this?
Yes, I would concur with the comments that have already been made, typically referencing to specific pieces of legislation contained in advice notes. I'm comfortable that it doesn't necessarily get moved advice note, but the obligations of the building code stand regardless of the decisions that potentially we make under the planning legislation.
Thank you. Did anybody else wish to speak on this amendment? Let's put this amendment to the vote then. Those in favour of amendment 3? That's unanimous. Thank you. Still with you, Member Hyam.
Thank you. Going to condition 15 now. As I indicated in my questioning, there's no, apart from the reference at the front of the RAR in terms of listing the scheme and policy provisions, there's nothing in the RAR that provides justification for the additional tree.
So what is your proposal for this
Proposal
amendment?
is to delete condition 15.
Would you, by the same token, be deleting advice note?
Yes. Sorry, it's advice note. 7, yes, thank you. That's that.
So Member Hyam wishes to delete condition 15 and advice note 7. Do I have a seconder, please, for that? Sorry, I haven't got my specs on. I'm happy to second that. Thank you. Did you wish to speak to it?
Yes, thank you. Look, I accept that there's a policy, but there's no analysis that's occurred. It just seems to me blindly saying, well, the policy applies and that's it. In my view, that's not the case. It's a due regard document and no due regard has been given to the policy. I don't understand from the RAR where or why an additional tree would be necessary apart from being told, well, it's a policy. So I don't accept that and I'm not sure that it's actually necessary.
Thank you. As seconder, I'll just briefly speak to it. I think there is adequate planting being placed on the lot itself. I note that the city officer said, well, there's room in the verge for a further tree. However, I concur with Member Hyam that there's no justification for that. One might find that verge planting acts as a substitute for lack of planting on site in some cases, but that is not the situation before us. And there is some planting already or trees in the verge near to this location already. So I'm comfortable to delete that and have the emphasis placed on the amenity on the lot, which I find to be adequate. Any other speakers on this amendment? Councillor Kunze.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I'd speak against the amendment. I asked the question earlier because I concur that there wasn't much reference to the policy within the RAR. And so I was asking the question. However, I fully appreciate and fully support council policy LPO2. The reality is that the Welshpool industrial area has hardly any greenery. The City of Canning ranks the second lowest in Western Australia in terms of our urban tree canopy cover, whilst I support and appreciate and the fact that the policy provides 13 trees on site, there's very few opportunities to plant trees within the Welshpool industrial area, and therefore council's intention is to take every opportunity, and that's why this policy is in place, where there's developments adjacent to a verge that doesn't currently have a tree, which it doesn't on the I think it was the Keydale roadside. Then we should utilize that opportunity. The cost of a tree is minimalistic compared to the overall development, and I think we would be missing an opportunity. The City of Canning is one of the few regulators that actually has the capacity to proactively go out there and ensure that there's trees and that they're maintained and so forth. The sad thing across Perth is that we're losing them on private property. Whilst I appreciate that there'll be 13 trees planted on private property and maintained as part of the condition, we need them on our properties, on Crown land, on Canning land, and that's why we have this policy in place and this clause. And the clause clearly stipulates that there's to be a tree planted where there's no current trees, and I therefore don't support removing the clause.
Thank you. Other speakers on this amendment? Mayor Hall.
Thank you, Chair. I too concur with the sentiment of Councillor Kunzer and speak against the amendment. Look, if the DAP is not going to support local planning policies that guide development around the planting of trees, and at a time when the state government is advocating so strongly for greening, we have the shothole borer destroying the environment at the moment. We are losing thousands of trees across the metropolitan area. This is a massive development on a massive plot of land. 13 trees on there barely makes a dent. And the addition of this one tree, which I believe has been agreed to by the developer, why would we move to remove it in an area like Welshpool and in the city of Canning, as Councillor Kunzer rightly stated, has the second lowest tree canopy cover in Western Australia. Why would the DAP move to remove a tree when we have an opportunity to actually support a local planning policy around tree retention and around tree planting, and to support the planting of this single tree on this site? I'm advocating for a tree that I won't see grow to maturity. That's the reality of what we do here as a planning authority, is to make decisions around developments that will aid future generations. So whilst this tree may not be typically important, and on a technicality because sufficient information wasn't provided in the RAR, I don't find that a compelling argument to remove this condition, which I believe has already been agreed to by parties.
Right.
I would ask for the support of the panel to keep that amendment, keep that condition and not remove it.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Member Lafanti?
Yes, I don't support the modification. I note that the material that we have provided includes a series of landscaped areas. Those landscaped areas, typical with this type of development, are fairly long strips of landscaping. The plans that we have in front of us show a substantial verge area that is capable of taking large tree species, and in this particular location it's also a corner, the development's on the corner element, and that it be appropriate in this location to give due consideration to both street frontages, the scale and size of those frontages, the opportunity to include a additional street tree in there as indicated in the report. And as I've already indicated, that typically of this development that we have in front of us and others, the landscaping strips are small on the subject property, and therefore any substantial large trees would require at the very least the root structure moving into the verge. I don't see that necessarily as significantly different than putting a tree in the verge that can ensure longevity through the controls that the city has, to the benefit of both the applicant development as well as the broader community.
Thank you. Member Hine, did you wish the right of reply?
No, thank you. No, I'm fine.
Okay, let's put this amendment to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? The motion is lost.
Guys, can I speak? I'm trying to get in
No,
here.
I'm sorry. We're now in debate, Mr. Warren, and the opportunity to speak was at the point of presentation earlier. So, thank you. The motion is lost 2-3. Member Hine, did you have further comments?
Condition 21, I would like to move to as an advice note, and same with condition 23. And my reasoning is that they are not.
Let's just get a second. Yeah. Condition 21 and 23. This is amendment 5. Member Hine wishes to move condition 21 and 23 to advice notes. Is there a seconder, please, for that? Doesn't look like there's a seconder, Member Hine.
That's all right. So just to wind up then, I'm quite happy to support it with those changes we've already made. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Member Lafanti, would you like to speak to the primary motion?
Yes, I am supportive of the proposal, as has already been indicated today. The proposal is consistent with the planning framework, including the scheme and the associated SCA, the airport buffer area. I'm also satisfied that it's consistent with the objectives of the area. In terms of its development, it's a good development, its location, and it has typical type of development that you would expect in this area. As far as I'm concerned, the issues and discussions that we've had in relation to landscaping were clarified. The elements around softening of the building, as well as protection of the verge areas and the tree species, so trees associated or landscaping associated with the development. I'm comfortable with the provisions that have been included. I note that this development has a surplus of car parking, which is excellent to see, and I commend the applicant for that, noting that there are obviously challenges or matters associated with just other transportation options that and the nature of the business that affect some of the parking. So it's good to see the applicant including additional relative to the site. Overall, I think the proposal is appropriate in its context.
Thank you. No amendments?
No amendments.
All right, thank you. I'll speak to the motion. I too am comfortable with this as a development. It's been well thought out. I'm comfortable with the categorisation of the land uses and the fact that the office is incidental. It's obviously an appropriate location for warehousing, and it is compatible with the surrounding uses, meets the objectives of the zone. From my reading, it seems to meet the majority of the development standards and requirement. I'm comfortable with the technical details to this point. I note that the applicant did raise the issue of stormwater management. However, I think that the geotechnical investigation is intrinsically linked with the design for the stormwater management and the drainage system. And the fact that it states prior to, I think really just assists in the overall design before you get to a building permit stage. So I'm comfortable to retain that condition and concur with the other points raised by other panel members in support of this. So I'll refer now to Mayor Hall as mover to have the right of reply and to close the debate.
Nothing further from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's put the motion as amended to the vote. Those in favour? That's a unanimous decision from the panel. Thank you. We'll just then quickly close out the agenda for this part. We've no Form 2 DAP applications and nothing at section 31 to reconsider. I take the opportunity to thank Mayor Patrick Hall and Councillor Ben Kunze and the local DAP members from the City of Canning for their attendance and participation. Thank the officers for responding to our questions. Thank presenters and other panel members for this part of the agenda, and wish you goodbye at 10:20 before we refer to the next item. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Goodbye.
Thank you. Well, we'll commence part C of our agenda for the City of Nedlands, and we welcome Councillor Rebecca Coghlan and Councillor Blaine Brackenbridge from Local Government Member City of Nedlands to the panel. Could I please just confirm that you've duly considered all material related to part C and related information? Thank you. Yes, due consideration has been given by all. Any disclosures of interest to raise from panel members? Was the matter considered at a council meeting?
No. Well, not this time.
Not this time round, but it was previously. That being the case, however, the fact that the matter hasn't changed since it was last considered, you're still comfortable with not being bound by previous decisions and or resolution of local government and undertaking to exercise independent judgment in relation to the matters before you in accordance with the DAP Code of Conduct?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Moving ahead. Nobody attended a SAP mediation for this matter as panel members, so no declaration to be made there. And so we've nothing for Form 1s, nothing for Form 2. So item 5 on our agenda is the SAP reconsideration of lot 414, number 37 Clark Street, Nedlands, for 5 grouped dwellings. We have one presentation today from Sean Fairfowl of Lateral Planning. I've granted a 3-minute time frame. So obviously you'll raise the key points that you wish to raise and stick within that time frame. I'll let you know if you start to run over, but when you're ready.
Thank you, panel, for allowing me to speak to you this morning. You would have read my deputation request. I may tend to read that verbatim. Just by way of background, the administration of the City of Nedlands recommended the proposal be approved. We obviously support that recommendation. City's council then provided their own recommendation, being that the proposal should be refused for a number of reasons. It was justified by the view that the bulk was outside the expectations of an R60 zone and will impact amenity, and the orientation of the dwellings facing north property of the adjoining neighbour. I'll deal with the second one first. The proposal does not orientate to the north and does not result in any impact to the property to the north of this site. The proposal immediately to the east includes a large single-storey dwelling with a number of trees within the rear garden. And except for Unit 1, which is adjacent to the front setback of that adjoining site, the proposal compliance will be deemed to comply provisions relating to side setbacks and privacy. These setbacks, privacy provisions, along with the existing vegetation and combined with the additional landscaping and vegetation to be provided, means that any adverse impact on the visual privacy of the adjoining landowner is unlikely and not out of character. Excuse me, not out of character with the R60 zone. In relation to bulk, the proposal is under the deemed to comply requirements in relation to site cover. Is consistent with the deemed to comply provision for number of stories, under the provisions in relation to building height, and is generally consistent with boundary setback requirements. So on that basis, the proposal is not beyond what might ordinarily be expected for dwellings within an R60 zone. The actual reasons for the recommended refusal included a reference to landscaping. The proposal retains a number of trees on the property and the existing verge trees. It complies with the soft landscaping requirements under the provisions of the R Code. It exceeds the number of trees to be planted by the R Codes, and it exceeds the minimum amount of open space requirements. The landscaping plan has been prepared by Kelsey Davies Landscape Architecture. In our opinion, it's a well thought out and considered solution, and we take the view that any suggestion to the contrary is not consistent with the proper review of it. Overall, the proposal primarily faces Bruce Street. Bruce Street, particularly on the eastern side, includes a number of side fences, at least 1.8 metres high, And this is due to a number of east-west side streets and the orientation of the larger lot. There are a few dwellings that orientate towards Bruce Street, resulting in a disjointed streetscape. This proposal changes that by introducing 5 additional dwellings fronting Bruce Street. The activation of this street will improve significantly. We've worked extensively with city staff and the city's design review panel with respect to improving the proposal and the outcome before you today. And we think that is considered, well laid out, and it's a quality designed outcome that is consistent with the R60 zone. It's a proposal that will improve the amenity of the area, and on that basis, we hope that you'll adopt the city staff recommendation and not the council.
Thank you. And Sean, you're accompanied by Daniel Hollingworth, both of you available for questions at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, panel members, Councillor Breckenbridge, did you have any questions of the applicant?
No, I don't.
Councillor Coghlan, did you have any questions? Member Hyam?
No, actually.
Member Lafante?
I don't have any.
I don't either.
It's got 3.
However, at this point, we can always come back to you, but we will refer to the local government officers, and we've got Sergio Famiano and Kirsty Klimke available for questions. Refer back to panel members. Did you have questions of the officers? Councillor Breckenbridge, Councillor Coghlan, Member Hyam?
Yes, thank you. In relation to the officer recommendation, condition 17, can you just explain the last sentence there about the damage which may be subject to retrospective development approval?
17, sorry, regarding landscaping.
Yeah.
So I guess this comes back to the city's desire to retain trees on site. And the intent is to ensure that the trees that are identified to be retained are retained. And if they are damaged or removed, then under the city's local planning policy, a retrospective approval can be sought for the removal of that tree. And as part of that policy, it would require potentially a replacement of a tree.
I'm just clarifying that, if I may. As I understand, effectively, if the question to the officers is that the plans are submitted that are recommended, the plans that are submitted in relation to the retention of the tree form part of the approval. That's your in terms of the wording of this condition, and therefore removal of an aspect of plans that form part of the approval would then trigger retrospective consideration if it's done without any other reference to yourself. Okay, that's where you're applying it for. Okay.
Oh, okay. I had a question again relating to the officer's recommendation, and that is to do with condition 1, which refers to the Metropolitan Region Scheme. We generally now, because the changes of legislation no longer refer to the MRS. Did you have any further rationale for including that, or should it get to that point, would you be comfortable with that being removed?
I think, yeah, that's a standard condition that we've put on. Yep.
And therefore, if we got to that point, would you be comfortable with that being deleted as it no longer being required under legislation? Okay. I just had a further question relating again to officer's recommendation and conditions 19 through to 22, which refer to sustainability. Am I right in assuming that what you have here relates to what you've seen on the plans, or is this associated with a particular planning policy of councils to be so specific around the nature of the sustainable elements?
Yeah, look, the city does have a policy that encourages sustainable development, and there's a criteria and there's a list of items that an applicant can apply for. The report that's been provided by Emergent responds to that, and obviously we accept, well, the officer's recommendation is to accept the initiatives that have been put forward by the applicant. So we're just encapsulating that through the conditions.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Any further questions of staff at this point? And no further questions of applicant. We will move ahead then with the item, and we will take it in the order that the report is presented. And in the first instance, we have a responsible authority report, which is a recommendation to refuse the applications for 3 reasons. Is there a mover, please, for that as the primary motion? There is no mover for that as the primary motion. I therefore seek an alternate and will refer to the officer's recommendation, which is to approve the application subject to a number of conditions and advice. Now, is there a mover, please, for that as the primary motion? Mr. Funty moves. Is there a seconder, please? Member Hyam seconds. Thank you. Member Lafanti has moved. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you. I will speak first to the issue of jurisdiction. Members will be well aware of the previous determination that was made in May, and that dealt with the issue of jurisdiction. I note that we have received additional material, specifically legal material from the applicant. It's from Hodgkin Handley Lawyers. It provides additional material in relation to the evaluation of the development against the planning framework, identifying and quantifying how the application meets the planning framework provisions of group dwellings. Therefore, and it talks to the issue of being a development that can be determined by the DAP. It provides a lot of information in there. From my perspective, I have given consideration to this additional material and comfortable that on the matter of jurisdiction that it is within our remit to consider. I will, however, at this juncture, just make one comment on that, and it's not, it is in the material that was provided in the request for deputation. That request referred to a comment that says, as agreed between the party, the application is not an excluded application and can be considered by the development assessment. I want to officially put on record that I do not include that comment and it forms no part of my decision making. And just to clarify, my reason for just particularly that comment is that appeals are subject to confidentiality. I have not been party to those discussions at all. So as far as I'm concerned, there can be no agreement made that I can base any judgment on in this determination. My commentary in the relation to jurisdictional question has been formed from the material that we've received, and I say particularly in relation to the additional material that Hodgkin Handley has given, as well as I've had a look at various SAT determinations in terms of forming a judgment decision on jurisdiction. So I just wanted to clarify that, if I may, through that. In turning my head to the merit of the proposal, the second part of my consideration, as far as I'm concerned, the proposal is appropriate in the context of the site. It is on a corner lot, having all development facing the corner, facing the street, Clark Street in particular. The design, I think, in terms of its form and scale is good design. It works well within the local context. The proposal has been to the DRP a number of times, and I note the DRP for commentary and support of the design, citing it as a high quality design in full compliance of the design principles of SPP 7. It's also, and Ra refers to this, it also talks to the proposal being consistent with LPP 5.15 precinct in terms of its objectives. That's both in its design and form. And as far as I'm concerned, that is a significant consideration from my perspective. The proposal does also include retention of a number of trees, and particularly the street trees, which soften and balance the built form, again consistent with LPP 3.4. Whilst I note there is removal of vegetation, the proposal does seek to retain significant vegetation on the site. Overall, there is a discretion sought on a number of areas. Those areas are quite minor from my perspective. They do not impact the overall functioning of the development and its interaction with the street. I'm satisfied that this proposal is consistent with the desired future character, and that elements of those variations or elements of that discretion don't impact the native property. And I would particularly like to identify that visual privacy, something that typically would impact neighbours, has been designed in such a manner that the variation being, or the discretion being sought there, has located windows in such a way to minimise any impact on the neighbouring property, consistent with those various provisions. In terms of on-site parking, I'm also satisfied that the commentary around the visitor parking, in this particular instance, there is quite substantial parking on site for each of the units, as well as the design accommodates visitor parking within the open driveway areas, which are dedicated to each of the units, addressing the need for visitor parking associated with developments. And I'm comfortable with the technical reports that have been provided. Therefore, I support the proposal.
Thank you, Member Lafante. Member Hyam, as seconder, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Presiding Member. I heartily agree with the comments made by Member Lafante. The land is coded R60 and capable of accommodating the 5 group dwellings on the single lot, even though the owner has received conditional subdivision approval to create 5 green title lots. While there are a number of elements that don't meet the deemed to comply provisions of the codes, they have been assessed to meet the design principles. For instance, private open space is marginally under, but it's well positioned and functional for the occupier amenity. In terms of trees and landscaping, the retention of existing trees and the planting of additional 11 trees is very supportable and will add to the amenity of the locality. I note the concerns from objectors that there was a lack of parking and additional traffic. Each unit has 2 bays plus some on-street parking is available. So in my view, that's quite adequate. While the setbacks intrude into the primary street setbacks, the development does not unduly impact on the streetscape or the amenity of the locality. The same applies to the lot boundary setbacks, in my view. I know one of the objectors' concerns was the loss of privacy from overlooking. Looking at the plans, I don't see that this is capable of being an issue. And I think in my reading of it, the cone of vision is satisfied anyway. So, and also note the support of the design review panel after a number of iterations of the plans. So I'm wholly supportive of the proposal. What I would like to do is to move an amendment to remove condition 1.
Oh, yes, I'm happy to second that. Did you wish to speak to it?
No, I think it's just been a change in legislation and that's no longer required.
Yeah. Any other speakers on amendment 1? No. Let's just vote on amendment 1 in the first instance. Those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Back with you, Mr. Hyam.
No further comments.
Okay, thank you. Other speakers, Councillor Brackenridge, would you like to speak to the motion?
I don't have much more to add. I mean, I can speak to it, but I can't speak to it.
Highly up to you.
I'm supporting this. It's owned R60 and as are all the other surrounding properties in close proximity to it. Situated on a wide, fairly busy secondary road that's easily accessible from Stirling Highway, and it's in close proximity to regular public transport, the city, major hospitals and medical precinct, shops, commercial areas in UWA. Typically new dwellings in the area are 2 stories high, so I don't think an extra story is necessary out of character. The rest of the that area catches up, and I think that the corner sites can take an extra story because it kind of bookends at Clark Street and creating this sort of sense of arrival. Bulk and scale are diminished by the stepping of each dwelling on plan and also the stepping of each dwelling as far as height goes. I like the fact that lifts have been included, so it allows the occupants to age in place, and there's no overshadowing onto of Northern Light onto any other property. And I think overlooking has been dealt with in addition. It may have limitations on landscaping, but the overall advantage of creating 5 new family homes on a single lot, I think, is outweighs any shortcomings. And finally, since the dwellings are in an R60 zone, I think it aligns with the area's intended future character and reflects streetscape changes prompted by this zoning.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councillor Coughlin, would you like to speak to the motion?
Nothing to add.
All right.
Go with Councillor Breckenridge's comments.
Thank you. I'll just very briefly speak to it. I am, as the mover has indicated, I also am satisfied at this time that the DAP has jurisdiction to determine on the basis of the information now provided. What's before us is a development currently on a single lot, and whether or not there has been a subdivision previously approved by the Commission, this has not yet been created and has not been acted upon. And therefore there's no certainty around that. So I feel that we do have the jurisdiction to consider this application as a grouped development at this time. Turning my mind to the actual development, I think the height, the scale is consistent with a lot of nearby development already happening in the area. Certainly merit in the protection of street trees through the condition of retaining 2 of those. There's also a number of trees on the lot, a couple of trees on the lot, which is very commendable. I think there's adequate orientation of windows and screening to meet privacy requirements. And generally otherwise it's consistent with the planning framework, apart from some very minor variations to that. As Councillor Breckenridge has raised, the stepping of the development through the topography, which is actually quite shallow, but it's well done, provides that variation and rhythm for the development. Any shadows are actually cast onto the road reserve, which I think is a good outcome, and therefore not overshadowing residents. So it's hard to find reasons to refuse this. I think it's a very appropriate built form for this location and much needed housing in the area, and I'm comfortable with the conditions that we have here, that they properly relate to the technical information required and also to the local planning policies. So I'm very happy to support as we have before us. With that, the mover is Member Lafanti. Would you like the right of reply?
Nothing further to say.
Very good. Let us put the matter to the vote. Those in favour? That's a unanimous decision. Thank you. Just very briefly then, I will close out the remainder of the agenda. There are a number of other SAT applications, Supreme Court Appeals. I think there's another one for the City of Watertown Avenue. That being the end of the agenda, I'll draw the meeting to a close. Thank Councillor Coughlin and thank Councillor Breckenridge for their attendance. Thank the city staff and the presenters, the other panel members and secretariat, and close the meeting at 10:46 a.m.